tell you is that when I was in Israel, I met a leader of a sect through my friends, and it's really tragic. He advocates, and he has some partisans, a couple of 10,000, the opinion that Holocaust was deserved as a divine punishment because Jews were not faithful. But you know why I find this so tragic? Because it's clear that it's so difficult to accept the meaninglessness. Just we were killed, no, that even if it's a terrifying meaning, God pan, even terrifying meaning is better than no meaning. This is where I see the horror. This is why I understand disgusting jerks like Pat Robertson and Jerry Falwell. You remember what was their reaction to September, to 9/11? It was a big scandal. Basically, the most radical Al-Qaeda lie, they claimed that September 11 was divine punishment of the United States because of their sinful ways and so on and so on. So what I'm saying is that the meaninglessness of it is difficult to accept. And the greatness of Job is that he insists on it. It doesn't have any meaning. The catastrophe. And now comes the miracle. Why the book of Job is a great book. You know what happens then when finally God comes and says something wonderful. He says all that the three bullshitters, theologists, were saying is shit. Every word of Job is correct. Like God takes the side against theologists of precisely the guy who resisted him, who refused to admit that it has a meaning, a deeper meaning. Then we go a step forward. Now things get really interesting. Because then we have the last stage, where nonetheless Job insists, okay, I'm putting it in my poetic terms, like, fuck you, but if it has no meaning, blah, blah, why did you do it, why did I suffer so much? And then comes the mysterious part. God explodes, you remember it, into that big speech of, where were you when I created stars? Where were you when this, that, all the freaks, miracles? The problem is how to read this. No? Like, the standard reading is the reading of just that the message is God's mind is out of our reach. God moves at a totally different level. We just have to trust God. It's a blasphemy of trying to understand God. No? That's the standard reading. There are other subdivisions, but basically. But again, I'm sorry if I repeat myself, I have this in one of my books. I know my beloved theologist, Gilbert Keith Chesterton, offers an ingenious opposite reading, which is that God's answer is really when he paints to Job all these freaks of nature, no? That basically the logic of his answer is, you really think you are in deep shit, but look at the universe, it's deep shit all around, like, I didn't just screw your life, I screwed everything, In other words, that we have here, as Chesterton put it, the moment where God himself engages in blasphemy. And in very nice terms, he says, only in Christianity, okay, but it's not even Christianity, it's Old Testament. Okay, and then, I think I already mentioned this to you, but it belongs here, even 2 days ago, 3 to this line. Then there is a Norwegian theologist, yes, I mentioned it, Zapfe, Z-A-P-F-F-E, a friend from Norway, who has an even more radical reading, that Job waits for God expecting some magnificent justice, but that what Job experiences is that God, the real God, is, this horrible idea, you find it in some fairy tales or science fiction stories, of a guy who is omnipotent, but his mind is that of an evil child, petty, omnipotent evil monster, that God is that. He is omnipotent, but he is, as this theologist, Norwegian Zapfe put it, but he is a kind of a primitive caveman, just beating with his stick with not even a minimal moral standard. You know that the trauma of Job, with which he finishes, okay, but...
So what you're saying is that God is ultimately omnipotent, but also impotent within the same moment.
Yeah, yeah, and this is not even very original, not only Gnosticism, but even in Schelling you find this already, you know, this idea of divine limitation and so on. But now let me go a step further to conclude this line, nonetheless. I think that we should make even a step further here. The lesson of Book of Job, and I think it's crucial to read Jesus Christ as next step in this line. The message of Book of Job is that God, as that, our usual idea of God, even if it's not material God, is that, to put it very bluntly, our life may appear to be a mess, but don't worry, there is some higher force, structure, meaning, which nonetheless will guarantee that everything serves a purpose. You know, this is what usually is called cunning of reason, or this is, for me, one of the most disgusting images of, strategies to us explain how evil can be in the world where we have good omnipotent God. You know this parallel of a painting. The idea is in the same way as when you look at a painting, maybe what I'm thinking, we have this Job's God there. Okay, then, you know, a painting. If you look at the painting too close, you see just a blurred stain. But if you step back a little bit, you see how what you misperceived as a stain contributes to global harmony. So the idea is that this exactly is the status of evil. It appears evil to us because our perspective is too narrow. But from a divine perspective, it contributes to global harmony. And then you can, okay, it doesn't matter how you do it empirically. The point is just that you have this trust that, however confused things are, from a higher global perspective, even if it's inaccessible to us, things have a meaning. There is some agency, personal God, destiny, reason of the world, which somehow runs the show and gives small pushes to direct it in the good sense. I claim that what Job experiences is precisely the death of this God. And I claim that, and that's also Chesterton's wonderful reading, that what dies on the cross is precisely this God. God who, up there, guarantees that, and this is a very actual God, I think, because, are you ready to say Holocaust, Gulag, Congo, oh, these are just evil events for us because of our narrow perspective, but from a higher perspective, Holocaust contributed to world harmony or whatever. Although there are people who claim Holocaust was part of the divine plan, because, which is true, without Holocaust probably no state of Israel, you know. So there are madmen who know. But nonetheless, what I want to say is that what dies on the cross is precisely the big other. The death of Christ means there is no higher order, ideal, real, existing, non-existing, which guarantees the outcome. We are alone with our freedom.